Ronnei, and he will also read a statement of his son, Nick Ronnei.
Mr. Ronnei, good afternoon.
Your Honor, David Ronnei. When we start a discussion about impact, we must really start with Luke. He paid the ultimate impact. This charismatic, beautiful, loving, caring person is no longer with us. Luke loved his family and his friends intensely. He loved being a student at ASU, where he was a major in global health. And in short, he loved life and everything it had to offer and all of its experiences. We were so excited as parents to see where this life might go, what he might do with it, and what contributions he might make to our society. Instead, his life ended at 20 years, 11 months. Your Honor, we celebrated Luke's 21st birthday by spreading a small amount of his cremation ash on the top of a mountain in Colorado, where he learned to ski and snowboard, a place we all cherished and loved. Not how we imagined spending his 21st birthday. The impact of our son's death on us, his brother, family, and friends has been nothing short of devastating. It's been 20 months since we lost Luke, and we're still experiencing a level of grief that only a parent who's lost a child can comprehend. It's all-consuming at times. You think time might lessen its impact, but it doesn't. This level of grief gets a hold of you and degrades you to your very core, like nothing you've ever experienced or imagined. And unfortunately for us, the destruction doesn't end there. Because of what we experienced the morning of January 7, 2016, our counselors tell us that our mental health has been further diminished by a medical and mental condition called post-traumatic stress syndrome. The horrific events of the morning of Luke's death have left an indelible and deeply imprinted memory on our brains, really throughout our entire being, that can't simply be forgotten or somehow erased. My mind can't let go of the totality of that morning. It replays the scene over and over again, multiple times each day, of finding our son unconscious, and then the medical team eventually bringing him down the stairs on a stretcher in a body bag. Our path forward, needless to say, is going to include significant counseling and other forms of treatment as we deal with this devastating loss. We deeply hope to find some sort of new normal. Strong faith, support from family and friends, and counseling all help, but our path forward to get there to some sort of new normal is far from clear. The best image or analogy I can give you is like you're being stuck in quicksand. The more you move, the more you sink, and you can't seem to free yourself from it. With all the support we're getting, we're keeping our heads just above that water-sand line, but so far unable to get out. As we try and move forward, there are memories everywhere. Most of them good to be sure, but they can be constant and sometimes overwhelming. Our home, of course, is full of memories. All the places we've gone over the years, full of memories. The point is the flood of memories hit you, and sometimes it incapacitates us to the point where we can barely move. We call it memory overload. And then after that starts to pass and subside a little bit, the deep questions around why. Why us? Why did this happen set in? And of course, there are no good answers. Addiction is a horrible disease. Drugs are everywhere, as are ever-present drug dealers. And we as the victims are left only with pain and gaps. You see, when you nurture a child from diapers to college textbooks, they become part of you, much more so than an arm or a leg, more like an integrated heart. When your kid's doing good, safe and happy, you as a parent are doing good. You're on top of the world. When you lose a child, as we did, a huge part of your heart is damaged, severed, lost. And it affects everything, every aspect of your life as you try and move forward. It's the quicksand. We were warned early in our counseling experience that the second year after the loss of a child is actually harder than the first year. Our counselors said that the second year was often when major illness set in, and we are advised to take good care of ourselves, both mentally and physically. We tried. However, about 14 months after Luke's death, I was diagnosed with a very aggressive form of bladder cancer, and I've been through 2 operations and endured a chemotherapy cycle that lasted 3 months. My prognosis is anything but certain. After sharing this story of Luke's circumstances and his death with the doctors, they quickly zeroed in on stress as a leading likely causation factor in the development of my condition. Our counselors clearly believe that this is the case since they've witnessed it before. We all know our country is in the midst of an opioid epidemic. We're losing children and adults at an alarming rate. All one has to do is turn on the news to see it firsthand. The question we're struggling with, all of us, is how to slow or stop this epidemic. While there is no single answer, getting prolific drug dealers off the street is at least part of the solution. Let's remember, it's not a crime to be an addict, but it is a crime to sell a drug to someone that kills them. As we've learned, a single drug dealer can kill numerous addicts and adversely impact hundreds of individuals and their families. And this will continue to be the case until dealers get the message from law enforcement and the courts that selling drugs, lethal drugs, will net them maximum sentences in prison time. Let's stop putting addicts in jail. We need to help them and their families with improved treatment options. It's time we incarcerate profiteering drug dealers for as long as the laws, both federal and state, permit. Send the message loud and clear. To that end, Your Honor, regarding sentencing, based on the facts you've heard during trial, impacts you're hearing here today, and the greater good of our citizens, we implore the court to consider an upward departure from Minnesota sentencing guidelines to the statutory maximum for third-degree murder in Luke's case, and that any additional sentences be served consecutively. Thank you for your time today, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Roars.
This is the statement of Nick Ronnei, Ronnei spelled R-O-N-N-E-I. 2 years ago, I thought my brother's life was improving. When we talked on the phone, he sounded happy, he was interested in school, he was getting great grades, he found a bunch of wonderful friends and a sense of belonging in a new environment. This was different from the Luke I was used to the year before he went to Arizona State University. I will always love my brother, but his addiction hurt me and my family deeply. The stress it put on all of us was immense. The sense of hope and relief that I felt from my parents, even over the phone, made my heart skip a beat when I spoke with them. I felt hope that I hadn't allowed myself to feel since he first told me of his use and asked for help a year earlier. That year had been hard, but things were looking up. We were, however, afraid. Christmas was coming. Was Luke strong enough to resist